Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this past week was a busy one with all of the updates and Apple invites and more, but this current week should be even busier. This is your news update for the week of March 6th, 2022. And first, before we get started, I wanted to give you an order of this video in case there's certain things that you're not as interested in. So first we'll cover just the basic news, then iOS 15.4 release and when to expect that, and then we'll get into the latest developments about Macs at the Apple event and future products such as Macs and more. So if you don't want the event spoiled or don't care about future products yet, I'll let you know when we'll get into that. Now, the first thing is Apple has set a date of April 11th for employees to return to Apple Park and offices. So within their offices, there haven't been people for the past couple of years, and Apple is a very collaborative company and would like to have employees back to make better products and things like that. Many companies have done this with the easing of restrictions in the United States, including Google on April 4th. So hopefully things stay that way. And also, if you're visiting Apple Park or other retail places in the United States, many stores have eased their mask restrictions. So those are now optional, and they've also resumed Today at Apple. So Today at Apple is now starting. It actually started on the 3rd, but it's now available, and things are slowly getting back to how they were before. Hopefully they stay that way. This week, to celebrate International Women's Day, Apple has been sending out this email. You'll see it says this week, March 7th to 13th, and there's new workouts and more in Fitness Plus. So you can see all about it here. And if you go on your Apple Watch, under your workouts, you can see some of the new workouts here. So you can try those out if you want, and you'll see there's more here, time to walk, time to run, and more. So those are available this week, and there's also some new badges as well that you can earn. Geekbench is one of those apps I've shown many different times in my videos to give us a general understanding of what a new processor is capable of, but Geekbench is also available on Android, and they've recently delisted the last 4 years of Samsung flagships from its app from the S10 to the new S22 Ultra. This is due to Samsung's game optimization service or optimizing service that is throttling apps but excluding benchmarks, meaning they would have higher scores in the benchmark apps than they would in the real world, indicating they've actually changed this to show that it has better performance than it does when you're using the app. Now, there's a couple different things that this could indicate. It could indicate that they're sort of throttling this to give better battery life or some other reason, maybe heat or more. But either way, it's something we weren't aware of, and Geekbench has delisted them because of this. I'm curious what you think about this in the comments below. Developers are challenging Apple to allow third-party web browser engines on iOS. Currently, if you're using a browser other than Safari, such as Chrome, it's still using WebKit and is basically just a skinned version of Safari. The Open Web Advocacy Group is challenging Apple to allow different browser engines, and the group says that allowing other browser engines would allow iOS to be a better platform for developing stuff for the modern web. And so that's one reason I often tell people just to use Safari unless they need to log in and use something along the lines of Google's apps and things with Chrome, because it's just a reskinned version of Safari over everything else. So Apple does not allow them to use their own rendering engines like they do on Mac and other platforms. Now, code within iOS 15.4 this past week with Beta 5 was found that indicates in the future you'll be able to switch between dark mode and light mode on a website-by-website basis. So this is something that will be coming very soon, and you'll be able to switch between those versions. So whether on apple.com or maybe google.com or Amazon, you can switch between light and dark mode depending on what site you're actually on. So before it was just all or nothing. We should see that with future updates. Now, this past week, we had a bunch of updates like we've been having lately with all the betas. So developers and beta testers had the release of 15.4 Beta 5. This was a bit of a surprise since many of us expected the release candidate, but we had Beta 5 along with iPad versions, tvOS, and HomePod versions, and then macOS 12.3 Beta 5 and watchOS 8.5 Beta 5. All of those released as a bit of a surprise, but I would expect as soon as tomorrow to have the release candidate. Typically, when Apple schedules an event, they'll have a release candidate after that event with a final release later in the week. Now, this could change. Maybe we'll see it later today, but typically we'll have it on the event day. Maybe they'll have a few extra things within the code and then a final release later that week or the following week. Apple will typically tell us when to expect the update at the event. So I would expect that pretty soon. And of course, if you haven't heard about the event, well, it's coming very soon. Actually, let's go back here. You can go to Apple's newsroom, scroll up, or go to apple.com, and you can see the March 2022 keynote. So if you weren't aware of this, this is the peak performance update, and you'll see it's in 1 day and 16 minutes. So you'll be able to watch this at 10 a.m. Pacific time or Pacific Standard Time, as well as 1 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. Of course, you'll have to adjust that for your time zone. But this will be available on apple.com or YouTube. You can stream it there and watch it with all of us as we're watching it as well. So I thought we'd talk about what to expect at the Apple event, a couple different changes since the last video I did about it, as well as future products and more. And so the first thing is the iPhone SE 3rd generation. Now, of course, we expect it to be the same as the 2nd generation. I've mentioned this before, and Apple is expected to have 5G in it. So it will have to get a small redesign as far as the 5G antennas and things like that, and hopefully a larger battery. But some people have suggested Apple could keep the current 2nd generation and lower it to $199 and sort of fit a market that they haven't really aimed to fit before. So a lower cost market, we could see something like that, or they could get rid of it entirely. We don't know yet until the event, but it would be nice to have that option as well. Also, just like last year, we're expecting a new color for the iPhone 13 series. So we had some new colors this year. Last year, Apple gave us an iPhone 12 that was in a purple color. This year, it said that we could get a green color. So we could get the addition of a green color. We haven't really seen one like this, at least based off the color that we think it will be, since the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So we could get that color, as well as an updated color with the iPad Air 5th generation. Now, I've mentioned we should get an update with this with a new camera and internals, but we could also get a purple color. So similar to last year's color, the purple iPhone 12, we could get a purple iPad Air, as well as updated internals and an addition of a front-facing camera that's better, that has center stage. I would definitely welcome that feature, so we could see that at that event, but we'll know as soon as tomorrow. Now, we do expect a new MacBook Air with different colors and a full redesign, like I've mentioned before, but there's been some different information about the 13-inch MacBook Pro and whether or not we would see one. So this is the M1, and some people have said we're going to see them just bump the specs internally, but then others, such as Ming-Chi Kuo, have said that we won't see one at all and we'll see different Macs instead. So it's possible we'll see some things like this MacBook Pro, or maybe we won't see it at all and we'll get a bigger surprise. And recently, people are saying that we're going to get what's called a Mac Studio. It's said to be a hybrid of Mac Mini and Mac Pro. So maybe this could be the G4 Cube style device we've heard about all along that Apple's working on, or maybe that's coming a little bit later. Luke Miani and Ian Zelbo shared what they believe the Mac Studio will look like, and it seems it's more of a robust and thicker version of the current Mac Mini and measures 4 inches tall instead of the 1.4 inches tall of the current Mac Mini. So we could see that tomorrow, as well as maybe a new chipset inside. I've talked about this in the past. We could see that in the 13-inch MacBook Pro, a new M2 chip, and it would have an 8-core CPU, 4 efficiency cores, 4 high-performance cores, and a 10-core GPU option. So we could see that, and it's said that Apple has been testing this with macOS 12.3 and macOS 13. So it looks like they're testing it. That makes sense. If it's going to release very, very soon, we should see that maybe tomorrow. Also, we could see a new Apple display that's been ready for some time, according to Mark Gurman. We could see it as soon as the event tomorrow, and again, it's rumored to be called Mac Studio and then the Mac Studio display. So we could see a lower cost display to the Pro Display XDR that would offer high resolutions, whether 5K, we're not really sure, but just be lower cost in general, maybe 27 inches instead of the 30 inches plus that we get with the Pro Display. However, Apple is also working on a new Pro Display XDR replacement that has up to a 7K resolution and Apple Silicon inside to help with graphics processing. So we're expecting all of that, but one of the unexpected things is the new Mac Pro and iMac Pro are apparently going to be a 2023 product, according to Ming-Chi Kuo, or Kuo Ming-Chi. This would be outside of the 2-year refresh of the entire lineup. So there's some mixed information about this, and I think this makes it more exciting, that we don't really know exactly what Apple's planning, and maybe they've done that on purpose to make things more exciting again, as we've really kind of known everything they're going to release before an event. Apple is also now ordering more mini LED displays for future products later this year and into next year. However, Apple is apparently ordering larger OLED displays for future iPads from Samsung as well. So maybe Apple's just testing the idea of OLED. There's advantages to mini LED over OLED and back and forth. OLEDs have some advantages as well, but it's hard to think that Apple's going to completely move away from mini LED to OLED. I would think they'd go to micro LED, where they would have sort of the advantages of both. So we'll have to wait and see, but that could be a few years away if they do go to OLED. And finally, Apple is working on the Apple Car still. I've mentioned this a few different times, but this time around, they're working with assembler Foxconn and Luxshare to get this accomplished between 2025 and 2027. So they're still working on that, as well as software. Whether or not we see a full-fledged automobile or maybe just the software for existing manufacturers, but either way, they're still working on it with different manufacturers across the supply chain, according to DigiTimes. And so that's everything as far as what to expect in future products that we know about this week, as well as Apple news and more. If you'd like to see anything different in these videos, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And would you buy a Mac Studio, or are you waiting for a MacBook Air? Are you planning to pick up maybe an iPhone SE or something else? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.